there's so many line choices.
Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us here in Whistler Bike Park. Today we're going to be dissecting what we think might be one of the best value downhill bikes on the market, the Polygon Colossus DH. Let's go ride with former World Cup racer Dan Wolf and meet the Polygon team and learn all about the DH. So Dan, the Polygon, and we'll talk with Zendy here shortly, who's at HQ. He said they're taking a little bit of a different approach with the new Colossus DH and making it less of a DH race-focused bike.
I wish I knew where I was going because the track's actually pretty gnarly. It's BC Trail for anyone that knows it.
You obviously come from a race background, so can you talk about how you were able to kind of work with Polygon and offer your insight into making this thing kind of balanced for DH riders and racers and bike park guys?
Yeah, so obviously like the first big visual is it's an aluminium bike, front and rear, and obviously the last downhill bike iteration was full carbon. And it was focused at racers and it had a pretty high price point. This comes in a lot lower and like you said, it's a much more versatile bike. We kind of went back to the drawing board. Like Polygon have always loved DH, so it was only a matter of time before we'd come back into it. But it's not with that classic old school mentality of like downhill is racing and that's it.
Right.
It's more, like you said, gravity descending, and this bike is like perfect, like it's at home in bike parks. It's also great for your shuttle rides, or if you want to set it up as a racer, you might want to run an O chain. Works really well with a coil shock and runs 29er wheel or mullet setup. So
can you give us a couple of key geo numbers here that stand out?
Headset in the low setting in the shock, that's going to be a 62.6 degree head angle, and then if you have it in the high mode, it's 63 degree head angle. This is a large frame, so it has a 480mm reach. The chainstay is 445, and it's 445 across all sizes. The BB height in the low setting is 350mm, and then high setting 356, so a 6 degree change.
And models and pricing.
Yeah, so we got two models. This is the premium model. This comes in at 4,999, so just under 5 grand, which is absolutely insane. You got your Tier P brakes, you got SRAM group set, full DT Swiss wheels, Schwalbe tires, Fox factory suspension. And then Raceface Atlas bar stem. Like it's basically ready to ride whatever race or event you want to do. It's super dialed. And then the second model, which comes in at 3,499, that comes with base RockShox boxer fork and base Vivid rear shock. It doesn't have DT Swiss wheels, but it does have Tier P brakes, still has Atlas bar and stem, same seat post saddle. So it's similar in some regards and same group set as well, but the big savings is in the suspension and wheels.
Before we are very focused on a racing competition.
Okay.
But now it's like we're thinking like a gravity downhill side. It's like a more like a lifestyle thing.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people just love downhill, not for the race, but like just doing what they love. So,
okay, all right.
So basically that's the start, yeah.
So this was kind of built more as like a gravity downhiller's lifestyle downhill bike.
Exactly.
Not quite with like a World Cup race team in mind.
Yeah.
As you guys were working on the suspension platform, why did you decide to go with this 6-bar design over some that you have on your other bikes?
So yeah, we start with the IFS, what we call the 6-bar, our 6-bar suspension, IFS, independent floating system. It's like we started with our enduro bikes, and Dan and previously our team racing in the EWS, and then they kind of have a lot of input on that one. So we feel like, and they also quite like satisfied with how it works. And in terms of engineering side, it's give us more flexible to tune down the kinematics on all those characteristics that we want. So that's why part of the reason why we choose this one for the platform.
Okay. Yeah. And as far as the kinematics on this bike go, can you talk to us about what you wanted the suspension platform to feel like?
based on the rider inputs, we want to be like a bit more progressive on this bike.
Okay.
But of course, like we also want to have a slightly bump sensitivity on it, right? So that's why we call it independent floating system, floating suspension. It's just because like we can also actually separate between those how we control the suspension works and how the real wheel behavior. So but that's why we come up with this one.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So the way you wanted to isolate the forces between
Yeah.
Gotcha. So over the course of the week here at Crankworx Whistler, we have put a lot of different bikes through the bike park, and the Colossus DH, honestly, it stands out as one of the more memorable and fun bikes that we've had this week. Our whole crew put time on it, and we all really enjoyed how the bike performed and rode. And honestly, at $49.99, it's almost a value that's too good to ignore. In fact, there's only one real nitpick that we have, and that is with the tire selection. Polygon has opted to run a super gravity tire front and rear, and we did notice that we were dinging the rim a little bit on this bike as opposed to any of the others, which have a downhill casing tire. So we think going to a super DH, at least out back, would offer a little bit more rim protection and allow you to kind of run those lower pressures. I liked the bike better in the high position. I thought it was a little more sporty, a little more lively and active. We've been running it in the MX or mixed wheel configuration right now because it is set up as a mullet. I really like it in that configuration. It made the back of the bike pretty snappy and playful, and the bike actually rode rather light and very lively. Trying to follow Dan, who's a much better and faster rider than I just came into stuff offline, fatigued, tired, and I was able to just pick this back end up and move the back of the bike in the air into where I needed to be to get back on the line or out of the way of something crazy that would have taken me out. Overall, ride performance and characteristics, I would say it's a really plush and supple platform. With the amount of sag I was running at, roughly 30-ish plus %, it was like soft, supple. It didn't beat me up. It wasn't overly harsh. I didn't get any like hard hits that kind of unsettled me, even with the 27.5-inch rear wheel. I think if a more racer-minded rider would put a 29 on here, possibly, most likely. And I noticed Dan had an O-chain on his bike, which would reduce the pedal kickback sensation. Not that there really was a big perceivable amount of it, but it would reduce that even further, making it even more supple and smooth and fast. We heard Zendy talk about Polygon looking at their new downhill bike as more of a lifestyle, a gravity lifestyle piece rather than a World Cup team support rig for the racers only. And I think that was a smart move because I think there's a lot of downhill bike riders that aren't just wanting to get a downhill race bike. They want something that they can go ride mellower bike parks at that don't have World Cup level tracks and jump and flow and have fun and play around. And this bike, I think, strikes a really nice balance of being versatile enough to do both pretty easily. We will be holding on to it for a long-term review. If you have any questions or things you'd like us to consider or compare this bike against for that long-term review, please let us know in the comments. And of course, we would be honored if you guys would subscribe to the channel, join and help us grow so we can make more awesome videos on cool mountain bikes. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you out on the trails.